Hmm? Oh, we're ready to record? Okay. All right. Let me... Okay. Okay. Hello there.
Hello there.
Didn't realize we were actually starting recording. I was just doing some light reading with some of my favorite pals here, Calvin and Hobbes, the old classic, and I actually found a comic that relates pretty much to what we're talking about today. Although, as far as comic stories go, it's a bit long, so we don't really have time to share the whole thing. So maybe we'll save that for a different time. Anyway, let's start today's video. I don't know if this is still a thing in the world of the youths today, but when I was a kid, we used to make secret clubs all the time. And those secret clubs had a set of rules, which we obviously created. But those set of rules didn't just come from anywhere. There was inspiration behind this rule book of ours. These rules were based on past experiences, pleasant or otherwise, so that our club could function exactly as we wanted it to. But why do I bring all this up? I mean, how does Calvin and Hobbes and secret clubs tie into what we're going to be talking about today? Or we not, because I will explain that. In today's video, we're going to be introducing our newest chapter, Chapter 14, titled the Constitution. Now that the United States of America is the real deal, it needs a new government in order to protect its citizens and maintain order. Well, just like my friends here who started the Get Rid of Slimy Girls Club, or GROSS for short in the comics, the Founding Fathers of America needed a good place to start. And for that, they went back in time over 500 years for some help. One document that the Founding Fathers looked to for inspiration was the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta, or Great Charter, is a document drafted by English barons in 1215 that limited the power of King John. It also guaranteed basic rights to the English people. These were some of the ideas the Founding Fathers wanted to use to build their government. So how's this for some perspective? The Founding Fathers, who went back in time 500 years to use the Magna Carta as inspiration, would be equivalent to an artist in 2020, present day, using Da Vinci or Michelangelo's painting for their inspiration. But the question remains, why were the Founding Fathers so keen on limiting the power of the government? Well, think about it. Who did they just win independence from? The whole American Revolution started because King George wanted too much power over the colonists and were trying to control too many things of their lives. They saw from first-hand experiences just how dangerous it is if one singular person has too much power in the government. This is why they look to the Magna Carta for influence, and not coincidentally, this document also addresses basic human rights, just like Thomas Jefferson did when he was writing the Declaration of Independence. So with these ideas in mind, the newly labeled Americans got right to work on setting up a government. The Founding Fathers created a document called the Articles of Confederation to set up the nation's first central government. However, the Articles limited the government's powers so greatly that it was too weak to keep order. When Americans began revolting, the nation's leaders knew that something had to be done. That paragraph alone could take up an entire video to discuss, which is exactly what we're going to be doing tomorrow. For now though, let's just think of this as the Goldilocks story. This first form of government was no good. They were still trying to find that just right government for their citizens. So like the good problem solvers they put their heads back together and started thinking of some more ideas. In 1787, the leaders gathered in Philadelphia to address the problem. The issues that occurred under the Articles proved that a stronger government was needed, but many feared that if the government was too powerful, they would lose the rights they were fighting to keep. How could they create a government that was effective enough to keep order, but limited in power? So this new country of ours is really in a pickle. The first version of their government was too weak and caused their citizens to revolt. Typical. And now their other idea of a government was too strong, which is a problem because they literally just spent 8 years of their life fighting to get away from a government that was deemed too strong. So like I said, they needed to find the Goldilocks government. And spoiler alert, they did. Also spoiler alert, we're using that government today. So here's what the Founding Fathers decided on after much deliberation. What the leaders ended up with was the Constitution, a document that set up the government that we still have today. Some say the Articles of Confederation was as unstable as a one-legged stool. As you read this lesson, you will find out why the Constitution is compared to a steady three-legged stool. Science time! Okay, not quite real science, but we're still going to conduct an experiment. In front of me, I have some items. I have some toothpicks. I dropped all the toothpicks. Almost done. What'd you learn in history? Oh, Mr. London's really clumsy with toothpicks. Got some marshmallows, and I have a perfect representation of our country, a Lego figure of Captain America. I want to use these items to demonstrate the stability of the one-legged versus three-legged stool that the textbook just talked about. So here we have our one-legged stool represented by a single toothpick and 2 marshmallows on either end. As you can see, it's not very stable and it's barely trying to stay up as it is. So what do you think is going to happen if we try and set our government on top of this structure? Didn't even stand a chance. So now let's try representation of that three-legged stool. Ta-da! Just by looking at this, I can already tell it's going to be much, much sturdier than the first one. So let's see if it holds cap here. Excellent. It even looks sturdy enough to hold up Iron Man. Okay, maybe not. So it looks like an unstable government really does cause a civil war. But that's for another time, though. In the meantime, though, here's what you can expect in future videos. We're going to be discussing the creation of our government and all of its inner workings. We still use this government today, so perhaps out of all of the other videos, this one is the most relevant to your life as we speak. Just like how it's important to know the guidelines of our 5th grade classroom and how we should act in order to find success, we also need to know what our United States of America were founded on. Don't worry, it's much sturdier than this thing. Most of the time. But guys, that's going to do it for today's Daily Dose of History. There is no question of the day because we just introduced a new chapter. Like I said, we're going to be spending the next couple of videos talking about how and why our government works, so you're not going to want to miss them. And lastly, don't forget that on May 29th is your States and Capitals quiz, so make sure you're studying those notes found on Google Classroom or my personal class website. But with that being said, I'll see you right here tomorrow.